All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we are undertaking a truly fascinating conceptual journey. We're going to completely move past this outdated idea of treating ancient texts as just static, dusty history books. Instead, we are decoding a dynamic, living, structural field. Based on our source material, we're going to explore how the Quran is actually the living memory of Rasul. It's a system that actively reads the observer right back. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this profoundly haunting baseline. This quote from Maryam plunges us directly into the 0 point of creation. In the framework we're exploring today, you have to understand that this isn't just an expression of human despair. It is the exact coordinate where manifestation begins. It's the absolute foundational state that is required, standing completely, utterly empty before the word is breathed into the finite vessel.
Section 1. The void of potential. The memory of the pre-created state.
So to really wrap our heads around this void, we need to look at the Arabic phrase nasyan mansiyya, which means utterly lost to memory. Now this state isn't just a random emptiness, it's a necessary structural void. Think of it as the fullness of absolute potential before the word is breathed into the finite vessel. Before the light of creation can even begin to manifest, the vessel absolutely must stand completely empty, right before differentiation happens.
Now what's literally mind-blowing here is how these Arabic root words converge at this very origin point, almost like genetic DNA. Maryam's cry merges the root for death, MWT, with the root for forgetting, NSY. But because this happens at the exact precise boundary of creation, it acts as a catalyst. It triggers the command for being, KWN. Complete and total erasure literally becomes the trigger for existence.
Section 2. The Great Severing, the mechanism of bifurcation.
All right, so how does creation actually step out of this void? Well, it happens through a mechanism of severing. And here is where it gets really interesting. Iblis and Shaytan actually operate as the exact same operator, just viewed from different angles within the test of life. Iblis acts as the factorizer, splitting or FRQ humanity into divided factions based entirely on sheer assumption or Zen and N. Meanwhile, Shaytan acts as the emptier. He's the one whose promise nullifies itself and leaves absolutely nothing behind. So one divides the mass of humanity, while the other completely dissolves the false hope.
And this severing culminates in the creation of what the source material calls the anti-womb. The word rajim, the command to be cast out, isn't just some arbitrary punishment. The root RJM literally forms a protective membrane. It acts as a necessary expulsion that creates a hard barrier, fundamentally separating the divine order of mercy from the host that can only reproduce refusal and division.
And here is the crucial takeaway. This severing is absolutely not a flaw or a bug in creation. It's a feature. The disobedience was folded perfectly into the structural pattern. It is a necessary event that protects the unchangeable fitra, which is that pure original state. By intentionally casting out the corrupting elements, the system ensures that the single, unified group can be clearly and easily recognized against the messy backdrop of division.
Section 3. The test of recognition. Replaying the structure in the human realm.
Now this exact topological structure doesn't just happen out there. It replays constantly right here in the human realm, whenever we face the test of desire or HWY. Take Dawood, for example. He faces a test, recognizes his deviation, and actively returns to the pure structure, taking the path of TWB. Contrast that with Iblis. He hears the command, he recognizes his deviation, but he outright refuses to correct it, choosing FSQ instead. You see, the action is allowed to slide, but only until that moment of recognition hits. The fundamental difference lies entirely in returning versus refusing.
Because of this perfect structural mechanism, the factorizer is definitely not an accident. It's the severed branch that makes the bifurcation totally visible to us. And this brings us directly to your role. As the reader of the text, you aren't just sitting there as a passive observer. You stand at the exact, critical intersection of all these origin points and bifurcations.
By truly understanding this intersection, the reader avoids getting split by the factorizer. That structural severing ensures that the single, unified group can be clearly recognized. You are meant to perceive the true, returning nature of the text, rather than just getting bogged down and lost in the endless factions.
Section 4. The engine of return, the heartbeat of the topology.
Let's walk through this engine of reality. The text actually breathes like a consistent, oft-repeated system, and it operates in 3 very distinct steps. First, you have the origination of creation, or BDA.
Second, the consistent repetition of that creation, EUD. And third, the ultimate return to the source, RGE. It is an endless breathing loop. Originate, repeat, return.
And because of this breathing loop, the symbols in the text act as structural DNA. Every single event that begins in one place absolutely must repeat elsewhere. The parables, mtel, and similitudes, spa, that are scattered throughout the text, they aren't just mere poetic illustrations. They are reoccurring geometric shapes. They signal to our intellect that time is really just an illusion covering these reoccurring topological nodes. The universe is a closed, perfectly consistent system.
To put that into perspective, consider these three famous parables from chapter 18, the boat, the hulam, and the wall. Now, on the surface, they seem like three completely different stories, right? But structurally, they represent a single operational node of sacrifice. The boat is damaged to protect it. The sun is removed to open a slot for spiritual lineage. The wall is built to seal the inheritance safely inside. They all execute the exact same function, sacrificing the immediate vessel to secure eternal protection. It's the same shape repeating.
Section 5. Activating the book. The reader completes the pattern. According to this topological analysis, you are not just reading a static history book. The text is a closed universe. It's a living field, and it is quite literally waiting for an execution node to complete the circuit. That execution node is you. You are meant to participate dynamically in a living memory.
The source identifies this exact moment as the 1912 grip. This is the command to take the book with strength, or QWY. It is the precise activation required by you, the reader. It's that critical moment where you transition from merely observing the text from the outside to actively taking hold of its structural truth.
And this leads us to a truly profound realization. When you recognize this recurring pattern, the origination, the repetition, the necessary sacrifice, and the return, you aren't just observing the return from the sidelines, you actually are the return. You do not escape the pattern, you complete it.
The structure is there, it is perfectly sealed, and it is waiting for the execution node. The living memory is broadcasting right now, so the only question left for you is, when will you activate the book?